Sorlag and Anarki have a unique style of movement not available to other champions at this point in Quake Champions. This is called air strafing, and it's based heavily off of the style of movement exclusive to a mod of Quake 3 back in the day called CPM. Let's take a look at how best to use air strafing, how to input it, how to do it, why it's important, and how to be as effective as possible with it. First things first, let's get started with the basics. I strongly recommend that if you've not already watched my guide on circle jumping and strafe jumping, that you please watch that first, as that will give you a lot of the fundamentals that you need before getting started with this air strafing technique. And you can find a link for that listed here, as well as in the description box down below. Now, why is strafe jumping not quite good enough for these champions? Well, sure, you can start strafe jumping, you can get up to your speed cap in just a couple of jumps really quickly, you can move around just like any other champion can, and really that's fine, but the whole reason that you're playing either Anarki or Sorlag is for that CPMA movement, is for that specialized form of movement. And what is that? Well, we'll take a look down here in this pit. You can watch me doing these circles around this piece of cover at breakneck speed, right? The rate at which that I'm turning through the air or air strafing through the air is absolutely phenomenal. I can do circles around these pillars as if I'm slaloming around them, right? I'm able to make crazy movements that you simply cannot do with any champion besides Sorlag or Anarki. Now, one of the limiting factors that you may find affects Anarki a little bit more than Sorlag is that if you make your turns a little too aggressively, you will start losing speed. It does happen to Sorlag, but you need to be going very, very tight to do it. Anarki, it happens much more easily, and we will go ahead and switch over to him to display that for you now. But there is a limit to how aggressively you can turn or how aggressively you can air strafe while playing as these champions. Now, this is not going to really be a problem in the majority of your regular style of play, but overall, it's going to be something that you can work with and work around. Now, Anarki is going to suffer from this quite a lot when you're trying to do these turns around these pillars, for example. These are the perfect example of where it just things get too tight, and you can't really turn around these pillars while maintaining speed. You have to give them a very wide berth, which kind of eliminates the reason to play this champion, unfortunately. So, Anarki not quite as good at it, but he has the same core idea here of doing this air strafing to give him crazy amounts of mobility. Although even if his top speed is not the fastest in the game, it is still pretty quick, and combining it with this acceleration through the air, this maneuverability through the air, almost like he's a jet fighter making, super tight turns, gives him a lot of credence as one of the stronger champions in the game. At least he used to be before he was nerfed into the ground in the most recent patch, but we'll not talk about that in too much detail here. Now, let's go ahead and let's switch back to Sorlag, who is by far the easier of these two champions to learn these techniques with. So how do you perform an air strafe? What do you need to do? Why is it important? Well, to start off with, what you're going to want to do is once you already have some momentum in the forward direction, you're going to hold left on your keyboard, left on your keyboard while moving your mouse left, or right on the keyboard while moving your mouse right. This is not like strafe jumping where you're trying to move it at a very slow or particular rate. You can do this very slowly or very quickly, and you're going to maintain your speed at least as long as you're playing Sorlag. Again, Anarki, you're going to suffer a little bit, but with this character, you can do some crazy movements, some crazy swings, and still maintain all that momentum however you're choosing to go through the map. And it's really simple. Left on your keyboard, left with the mouse. You'll see me doing these 360s here. Very, very easy to accomplish, very replicable. And I'm sitting at the speed cap for most of the time, as long as I'm not picking up my mouse and trying to move it while I'm simultaneously crashing into a wall, which does happen sometimes. I'm not a professional at doing this quite yet. Same thing applies to the rightward direction. Again, hold right on your keyboard, move your mouse to the right. You can just hold the spacebar for this exercise, as you can see me doing here. I'm not trying to press the spacebar every single time. I'm just holding it down, just using the auto B-hop to my advantage. And as you can see, I'm even able to switch directions as long as I'm doing it right when my feet are touching the ground, and I'm not losing any speed. I'm covering all the ground that I want to cover at breakneck velocity. Now, why is this important? Well, it enables you to take fights and to approach enemies from angles that you otherwise never possibly could. Like, for example, If you wanted to assault this mega health, for example, and you're not trying to jump this gap, normally with like strafe jumping, you're going to want to stop here, strafe jump, stop here, strafe jump, and you're going to make a very boxy movement. Like you're going to make a boxy movement from there to there, and then there to there, and then there to there. And it's very boxy the way that you move. With this champion, you can make it a lot more wavy. Like you're almost like you're a snake slithering through the air, if that was a thing. And the really cool part is that you can grab items like this while in the middle of turning. So you can effectively be very aggressive in position. You can grab this and you're already almost out the door by the time it would take another champion to strafe jump over there, grab it, and then take a second to kind of hesitate on the ground and then strafe jump over. You kind of see how that's different, right? So you can come through here, grab it, and strafe jump across, and you're going to be at maybe, 400, 450 UPS, or if you come in through here with your air strafe and you grab it and you're just flying out at 520. If you're playing Anarki, especially if you have the active ability active at the time, you're going to be flying around that corner, and you're going to be able to challenge people from directions with speeds that are otherwise not quite predictable by them. Now, of course, it's not the only reason to abuse CPMA style movement, but it's just one of those things that you can do that no other champion can. There's a lot of benefits to this, which you'll discover yourself through even just a little bit of gameplay once you really understand how the CPMA style movement works. And it's just a really good mechanic that you want to keep in your back pocket. It's kind of the entire reason to play Anarki or to play Sorlag. If you're not using the CPMA movement, there's frankly just not a whole lot of reason to pick those champions anyways. The other benefits that Anarki might provide, for example, is just a high overall speed, and the fact that if you're using your AD strafing, which is just walking left and right like this very quickly, it's very, very hard to hit him. If you're not using CPMA movement with Anarki, then frankly there's not any reason to be playing him, and you might as well just pick something like Nyx instead, who has a higher speed cap and has some crazy mobility of her own by using wall jumps. There's no reason to play Anarki if you're not using CPMA. Same thing applies to Sorlag. If you're not using this CPMA style movement, there's not a whole lot of reason to pick her. Sure, she has a big stack, which means she has a lot of health and a lot of armor, but at the same time, she has a huge hitbox, and her spit is okay, but if you're not using CPMA movement, you're moving very slowly with her, and you're not really ever going to be in an optimal position to use that more often than not. Sometimes you want to be coming in a million miles per hour, especially after doing something like a rocket jump, going like that, going 800 plus UPS, and you're coming in and spitting on somebody where they can't even hope to challenge you. That is the kind of stuff that you want to be doing with this champion to make her really, really good. And one thing you'll notice is that even if you're breaking, and it's going to be a little hard now that I have the quad damage, unfortunately, but you're going to notice that even if you're breaking the speed cap with this champion, you can still do all your crazy CPMA movement. Look how tight I'm turning the corner while going 700 UPS here. Like that is just not something that any other champion besides this one or Anarki can do. It enables you to take fights, to create situations that enemies otherwise just simply cannot deal with. And even what you can really do with CPMA movement champions, even better than other champions, and this ramp is a perfect example of it, is if you hit certain ramps, certain inclines or declines while you're doing your air strafing, while you're doing your bunny hopping, you're going to actually break the speed cap, not by hurting yourself, not by doing any cool movement techniques, but by simply just jumping on this ramp. Like, see here, my speed cap is broken. I'm going 600 UPS, but I have not hurt myself. I've not done anything crazy. All I'm doing is just jumping on this ramp. So by doing that, you can get your speed over the cap to approach areas at, again, faster than normal speeds while having crazy amounts of air control. The CPMA movement style is very simple to accomplish once you practice it enough. And again, just to reiterate, hold right, move your mouse right, hold left, move your mouse left, and that's it. And to prove just an extra little point about CPMA movement, you're actually able to maintain, or rather not even to maintain, but to build all your speed from zero without ever holding W. That is the critical thing with CPMA movement, is that you do not need to hold W at any point in time. So for example here, let's start holding the space bar. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that same. Hold left on the keyboard, move my mouse left, and then hold right on the keyboard, move my mouse right. And you're going to see that very quickly, I'm going to go from 0 UPS to my full 520. Watch this. Every single jump, I'm alternating left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And look, I'm accelerating and I'm moving, and I've never once pressed W that entire time. You can watch it back. You can watch it in slow-mo. You'll never see that forward direction appear on the directional hints that are surrounding my crosshair there. You're never going to see that forward button ever get pressed. Once again, we'll stop right here. Let's do it the complete stop way, right? It's going to stop and just start from nothing. You can already start moving. This is the fundamentals of how the CPMA physics, how the CPMA style of movement actually works. And quite frankly, it's very, very simple to do once you've practiced the motion. If you're a convert from a game like Titanfall, for example, this style of movement should not be very foreign to you. It'll be actually very, very freeing, because in a game like Titanfall, you cannot turn anywhere near as aggressively in the air. You cannot airstrafe anywhere near as aggressively as you can in Quake Champions with these CPMA style movement champs. Now, there may be more CPMA movement champs added in the future. I'm really not sure what's going to happen. We don't have those champions announced or confirmed or anything like that, but I would be surprised if they don't add a third CPMA movement style champion at some point during this game's lifespan. Now, one other thing that I wanted to mention is that you can maintain all of this speed even off of rocket jumps or off of, frankly, any sort of impulse that your character may be subjected to. So if your opponent hits you with a rocket or the tri-bolt and you get popped into the air, in any way that you become airborne, you can air strafe off of that, build speed off of that, and have that air control that characters like Anarki, or I'm sorry, the characters like Ranger might never experience. Anarki will obviously maintain the same air control that Sorlag has, but something like Ranger or Doomslayer or BJ Blazkowicz or Scalebearer, you're not going to have that same control like you have with Sorlag or Anarki, and we'll even prove that here. So like once I rocket jump, I can start strafing in circles through the air, right? So what I can do is we'll go from a complete stop. We'll go from a complete stop here. So you can't really, if you're just holding right and left, you're not going to build that speed up. But if you're able to move forward, rocket jump, and then do this, if you have any speed coming into that rocket jump, you can strafe through the air to make these jumps. Again, going from a full stop, it is technically possible if you're really close to just strafe over, right? You can see me barely making that by just kind of wiggling left and right. But if you have any sort of speed whatsoever coming into this, all you got to do, you can just move. Let me not rocket jump towards that. Just walking forward, get up to speed, go here, you can strafe through the air and get up there, right? And all that's just off of a rocket jump. It's very, very simple to accomplish and to repeat once you put in that little bit of practice. Another thing that I can mention here for the CPMA style movement, and this applies only to Sorlag. This does not apply to Anarki, but only for Sorlag. What you can do, if this left, right movement is a little bit too hard for you, but you want to get used to that big mouse movement of, air strafing through the air, well, what is this that I'm doing? Suddenly I'm going 499 UPS and I'm able to do the same thing by holding W. Well, that's really it. Just hold spacebar, hold W, and if you want to change directions, just simply move your mouse in that direction. Now, one thing you will notice is that your character's movement almost lags behind where your aim is actually pointed, almost like you're ice skating, and that there's just a little bit of delay between where you're looking and then your character kind of catching up to that direction. So the way that you air strafe around corners has to be a little bit more floaty, almost kind of like imagine like you're trying to park a car in a parking lot, right? And say like, for example, there's a spot off to your left that you want to get into. Well, you're not just going to go straight and then just cut your wheel left to get into there, right? You're going to move to the right a little bit and kind of bubble away from where you're trying to go and then turn into it. And that is kind of what you want to do with Sorlag when you're using this movement style, of just simply holding W and spacebar. Now, you are capped at a slightly lower speed, 499 or 500, as opposed to the normal 520. But if you can't do that hold left and move left or hold right and move right movement that we were talking about before, this is a fantastic way of getting started. This is going to allow you to get used to those big mouse movements. This is going to allow you to really understand what these characters can do, or rather, at least what Sorlag can do. And using this to your advantage, you're going to absolutely understand some of the basics of CPMA movement, and once you're comfortable with this, it's very easy to transition into doing the proper left and right, hold left, move right style of movement that will increase your speed from 500 to 520 and give you even better, more precise control of how you're moving. In addition to all of this, one cool thing is that you actually never have to let go of one of the directions. So for example, if you're like moving in a straight line, theoretically, you can just hold right. As long as you're not moving your mouse to the right, your character is not going to move right through the air, and it really doesn't matter. Like I'm holding space and left. Nothing is happening. I'm going in a perfectly straight line. And then I just start moving my mouse right, or I'm sorry, I'm moving my mouse in the same direction that I'm holding on the keyboard. And it's easy peasy. It's very, very forgiving. Very forgiving. And very good for the newcomer to understand how the mechanics work and to slowly but surely get better at them and become a true master of the CPMA style of movement. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that this has been helpful to you. I hope it's been informative for you. If you have any questions, any concerns, if you want to share any other strategies for the CPMA style of movement that I may not have covered here, please leave them in the comment section down below. I'm more than happy to read those, and hopefully we can implement them in future guides and just make every new player to Quake as homey and comfortable as possible, learning the difficult game that is Quake. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.